Hey guys, Brian Safchik here. So today I want to talk about contingent work. So if you're a recruiter and you feel like you're spinning your wheels with contingent assignments and you're sending a bunch of resumes to, maybe it's a new search with a new client, you're sending a bunch of resumes and no one's ever getting back to you and you just did all this work for nothing and most of your work is contingent, you're probably doing something wrong. See, in my career, I've made a ton of money on contingent work. However, it has to get done properly. You have to evaluate the assignments the right way. And I did this with the people that used to report to me on my team. Is that they would spin their wheels working on these assignments, and they didn't properly evaluate the assignments going in. So I'm going to give you guys a few tips, things that I use to evaluate my assignments to determine whether, one, I want to work on them, and then once I decide I do want to work on them, how do I then approach the assignment to make sure that I'm not spinning my wheels. So first of all, I want to understand where is the position and what is it, right? So if it's a skill set that I know is going to be really difficult to find, that already is going to set off an alarm in my head, right? And say, okay, if this is already a ridiculously hard skill set, right? But then if it's also in a location that's going to be really challenging, like for instance, I do the pharmaceutical industry. There's pharmaceuticals is really only in about 5 major places in the country. So, I have a client in Richmond, Virginia. Any position that I work on with them, it's almost going to be a sure relocation. So almost everything with them I do retained. I'm not going to take on a contingent assignment that's going to be almost surely going to be a relocation, right? Because you're doing so much upfront work just to find one person who has the skills and is willing to relocate, right? Secondly, is the job going to be exclusive? So I generally will not work on a contingent assignment if it's up against another search firm. I just won't. It's just too much. It's too much hassle for me. Now, Now, in a situation where a company comes to me and says, hey, I've had another search firm on this and they've been unsuccessful, we'd like to get you in the mix. Well, in that situation, yeah, maybe I'll jump in, right? If all the other terms sound good, but otherwise, if I'm up against a couple of other search firms, I'm just not going to even get in the mix. It's a waste of my time. Third, will I be able to speak to the hiring manager? If I can't speak to a hiring manager on a search, it is a no-go. I'm done. It's not happening. Move on, right? And any talent acquisition person who tells you that they can give you just as much information as the hiring manager is bugging. I will never, ever, ever just run away if you can't speak to a hiring manager. Also, ask about compensation before you even take on the assignment. What's this role going to pay? Right? Is this going to pay above or below market? If the job is going to pay really well, then that obviously factors into my decision on whether I'm going to take on the assignment, right? And then what are the payment terms my client's giving me here? So if I'm doing contingent, I'm taking on all the risk. When are you paying me, right? So obviously it's success only. If you're not paying me for 60 to 90 days, that may not be something I'm going to be too thrilled about. But I would say the other ones are going to be a little bit more important. Now, how do I approach these assignments? And this is really important to pay attention to. Right? If it's something I haven't had much experience with in the past, before the call with the hiring manager, I'm going to run a search. Or maybe even before I determine I definitely want to work on it or not, I may back out of the call and say, let me just think about it and get back to you and run a quick search. Run the search and see, is there a talent pool here? Is the talent pool big? Is it small? Is it confusing? Like if you have a project manager search, that could mean anything. So, how do you narrow that down? Just, you really want to take a look at and say, all right, what's the candidate pool look like? And then here's the part where people really screw up, right? They take on the assignment, sounds great. And then they start working on the search and they work on it for like 2 weeks and send like 3 or 4 resumes and don't hear back. See, at that point, it's your fault. See, what you should never do is this. Never ever send multiple resumes and work that hard for that long of a period of time on a search, unless you already know this client and have some experience with them. With a new client, what I do with contingent work is I send one resume. One, I go find one resume that matches up with exactly what they're looking for, and the compensation works and all location works and all that stuff. I send one resume and then I wait and I see what happens. If they take a long time to get back to me on that resume and I follow up and they're still not getting back to me, I'm not sending anymore. I'm done. Like, I'm going to put in a couple of days of work and I'm going to find you the one really good candidate and see how you react to it. If you react and you get back to it, if you get back to me, I'm going to send you more. See, I pay the most attention to the clients who pay the most attention to me. So if you're not going to spend the time to look through these resumes and get back to me and give me feedback and start scheduling interviews, I'm not sending you anymore. It's contingent. I take on all the risk. So I'm not going to sit here and spend all my time spinning my wheels. I'm just going to move on to something else. And that's the part where recruiters really mess up, is that they spend all their time. So they spend 2 weeks recruiting on an assignment that, and send 4 resumes. And the first resume they sent after 2 days and they never got any feedback and they just kept going. So anyway, if you're spinning your wheels with contingent searches, hopefully that was helpful. I'll be back here tomorrow at 12. Share the video if you found it valuable, and I will see you guys soon. Have a great day, everyone.